California, people are waiving appraisals, which I think is just bonkers. Is it the same in Ocala? Like, what's going on? Chris, let's start with inspections. What is a home inspection?
A home inspection. A home inspection is one of the single most important things that you can do whenever you're buying a house. Here's the reason why. Is because on the outside and on the inside of houses, they can look totally great, like nothing's wrong with them. But the job of a home inspector is to really go in between all the little crevices, areas that you wouldn't normally think of or know how to even pronounce. I just learned what a soffit was whenever I first started real estate, you know what I'm saying? So the inspectors taught me a lot, and the value of the inspection as well. So they go in, they look at stuff like the condition of your roof, they inspect the shingles, they can inspect your septic system that you have hooked up to the house. They look at door jams, they look at possible termite intrusion, they look in your attics, they look at the wiring, they look at everything that's going on in there. And it's such a blessing to have inspectors because you can get out of some really sticky situations by having a home inspection done. I've had buyers who, we went in, we looked at the house, we're like, this is great, let's check it out, let's put an offer. We looked at everything on the property appraiser website to make sure that all the permits and all that were up to date. House looked pristine. Next thing you know, we get the inspection done and they're like flagging this, flagging that, mold in the attic, this and that, we found termite intrusion, part of the insulation on this wall's missing, just stuff like that. And so stuff that the naked eye wouldn't see and that the average Joe wouldn't notice. So it's important to get one because that $300, $400 investment for an inspection can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars of heartache.
Or as a buyer, when should you get an inspection?
So typically whenever you go under contract with a house, meaning you've put an offer and you've got the acceptance, your first 15 days, unless you specify differently, are what's known as the inspection period. So the reason that we have an inspection period is because whenever you go to buy a house, they ask you to put a deposit down on it, meaning you have skin in the game now. That's called your earnest money or your EMD or your escrow deposit. You put that deposit down, basically showing them, yeah, I'm a serious buyer. I really intend on purchasing this house. And then the first 15 days, you do that inspection, everything looks good. No need to pull that escrow for any reason. If you go through an inspection and it comes back bad, as long as you have it done within that inspection period, that escrow deposit can be taken back by your buyer and they can say bye-bye. If anything were to go south on the deal. Of course, things are negotiable. People can get things fixed, if the inspection comes back bad, like, hey man, we got a partially rotted roof. Are you willing to put a roof on this place or at least knock the cost of a roof off the price? Everything is negotiable, but it really allows you to see some of those inner workings and stay protected as a buyer.
Nice. And what about as a seller? Did sellers typically get inspections or should the seller get an inspection?
I would so here's the thing, man. I wish that sellers would go about getting inspections. I wish that they would go about, getting inspections and appraisals done, because if you're getting ready to put something on the market, you don't know what's going on with it until someone's already started throwing money at it. Come on now. I feel like that's slowing the process down. Of course, lots of people do a great job and houses come back fine. 9 times out of 10 they do because, the realtors in this town know what they're doing. But I mean, there are times whenever it doesn't. And it's like, man, if someone would have gotten ahead of this, we could have known and we wouldn't have wasted our time, or we would have made sure that this was fixed ahead of time. Sure. So I feel like it saves everybody a lot of heartache because in a real estate transaction, you got to think, okay, what's the inspection going to look like? What's the appraisal going to look like? Are we going to have clear to close on time? Are there going to be any addendums that need to be made in the middle of it? Are they going to suddenly come back and ask for, hey, can I have the washer and dryer? And we'll write an addendum for, so there's so many things that are so uncertain in a real estate transaction that I think that the more certainty you can give a buyer, more likely to buy your stuff.
Yeah, no, I like that. It ends up saving people time in the end. Like if
exactly. And I mean, you're about to make hundreds of thousands of dollars on your home anyways. So I mean, between an appraisal and inspection, you might spend $800. But if it makes you 250 grand for the sale of your house, what's $800?
Yeah, it speeds up the process. That's really that's a good way to look at it. Or taking the risk for it to maybe like hold something back, or then having to restart, or
exactly. And I see all sorts of stuff. I see people like, okay, well, we gotta unload the moving truck into a pod and we're gonna retreat to a hotel until they clear us to close. So I've seen all sorts of stuff happen. So the more certainty that you as a seller can contribute to the transaction and help everybody else out, the more we're gonna like you and the harder we're gonna work for you.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Let's move on to home appraisals. So what is a home appraisal?
So the home appraisal is part of the real estate transaction where a certified appraiser comes out and they look at the outside of the house. They look at the condition of everything, like roof. They look at AC. They look at a lot of different factors, all the big ticket items. They come inside, they look at the structures, make sure that everything's looking good, and see, okay, based on houses that have sold in this radius that were of similar size, built in a similar year, like within like 5 years of this house's age, and similar square footage, and it also has a pool just like your house. We think your house is worth, boom, based on that. They take statistics of the local market of what recent transactions that were very similar to the one that you're trying to get into, and that's how they value out your property.
Cool. And so as a buyer, like when does the appraisal happen? Like typically in the process, like
it happens. It usually happens after the inspection. If inspection looks good, and nothing needs to be moved around or repaired, typically you go ahead and make sure that appraisal, gets in there and that they come out. And once the appraiser reports, the good news back to the mortgage company, then they give you the clear to close, and everyone's happy.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so in the Ocala market, like I know here in California, people are waiving appraisals, which I think is just bonkers. Is it the same in Ocala? Like, what's going on?
I'm seeing a lot of that. It depends. It depends on what you're doing, because if you're going through a bank, you have to have an appraisal. Out in California, where there's a little bit more of this going around, there's a lot of cash buyers. And with cash, if it's like, because I got to be out of my house in 2 weeks because we're closing, I need to get into your house in 2 weeks, and I have the money to cover it, even though it might be overpriced, screw the appraisal. So that's kind of the mindset of it. These cash buyers are like, hey, if we got the money for it, we're not worried about it, we don't need an appraisal to save $2,000, so that's kind of the mindset with that. We do see it in Ocala, and it's usually with people who are paying cash.
Interesting. Which is an interesting kind of concept or phenomenon, I would say. And then I know people are waiving inspections here in California.
They do that. They waive inspections as well. And don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. I tell people that all the time, and because they're in a hurry, and in this market emotions run high, they're like, no, that house looks good, I believe the seller. I've literally seen houses that were advertised as having a new roof not end up having a new roof. The person moves into it, they live in it, they discover that in the first 2 months of them living there that the roof has a nasty leak, the first rainstorm that they have. And then they realize that it was false advertising because they didn't get the inspection to make sure that everything that was being advertised was correct, and there's only so much that that realtors can do, because we know a lot of the stuff that inspectors look for, but it's like this person had literally had a roof leak at their house, and then they just like fixed it up just enough so that way it would get them out of there. And then when it started raining and it had to perform, it all of a sudden, this buyer ended up with a nasty, issue, and now they're, it's all because they wanted to save $300.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. So some common misconceptions that typically people have is the appraisal the final price of the home?
Yes and no.
Oof. Okay.
So an appraisal is very similar to a CMA, which is a comparative market analysis, which is what a realtor does. Basically, like I had said before, we look at recent sales that are similar to this house, close to this house, and this price per square foot is what we're going to price it at, and this is where you should be. The appraiser comes out, they do the exact same thing. However, whenever an appraiser comes out and they do an appraisal, they're humans just like you and I, and sometimes they overlook that this house that they're comparing yours to had tile instead of linoleum and stuff like that, and they'll pull the value down on stuff that needs to be up here because they didn't see something like tile or granite countertops, or and so basically you can challenge the appraisers and justify your actions with, okay, well, this house sold for 10 grand more, this house, and they're almost identical. Why can't this house go for 10 grand more and be at the same price, And it happens all the time. We challenge them, and if we can justify it, if we can legit back it up with real data, 9 times out of 10 they'll raise it for us, but in a way it is the final word, because if the appraiser doesn't give the lender good news, your seller either has to come down on the price, or you got to forfeit the house. And in this market, it's tough to do that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, cool. Thanks for that information. Let us know if we missed something in the comments, and what you guys think about this topic. Any other questions that you have, leave them down below. You can contact Chris. His information is in the description as well. All right. Until next time.
What's up, guys? Chris the Ocala Realtor here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out the next one, and don't forget to subscribe.